Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Revit Radio. I'm Brian. That is Melissa, depending on where she is on your screen. And it looks like most of the names are familiar, but there's one or two names in there that look pretty that look different. So for those of you who do not know what this is a session where you guys all ask the questions and we answer them for you. There's no questions. You get to hear me talk about the background you see behind me, the 15 vultures eating fish carcasses we saw yesterday. So, it's
Mhm.
kind of one of those really, really boring things for you. Um, if you guys don't ask questions. So make sure you put your questions in. If you do have questions, please put those in the Q&A pod. Definitely makes life much easier for us if they are in the Q&A pod rather than just simply in the chat, because if you put it in the chat, more than likely other people will be chatting and we'll end up missing the question. So please put those in the Q&A pod. Um, Otherwise, jump on in and ask your questions, and then feel free to say hello, howdy, and heckle us as much as you want in the webinar chat. So I got this lovely task that I'm doing this week. So I thought I would throw these up here today, in the fact that I work with quite a few projects, and quite a few projects with clients I work on, they end up having um, shared parameters, right? Like, oh, we need these shared parameters for you guys to use. We have these shared parameters, or at least in every project is here's how our browser organization or our sheet organization is going to be set up for the discipline, etc. So one of the things I always like to say on that, if you are the person in charge of this, let's just see by show of hands how many people are actually in charge of that, because I'm always curious how many people have to be in charge of that stuff. So by show of hands, how many of you guys are like in charge of your prime and you've got to do the sheet indexes or whatever else? Cool. Looks like about half the people here. So with that said, one of the things I always like to tell people is if you are in charge of that, make a blank Revit file that has that stuff inside of it. And what I mean by that is if I start looking at this file I have sitting here, this file I'm sitting here is one that I set up for one of my clients. When we start looking at this, okay, I didn't minimize that. Okay, we go. So when I set this up, literally, if I go into the project parameters and we start looking at the project parameters, these are the parameters that this particular client requires all of the subdisciplines to use. If you're a building owner, and Desiree, my wife, who is now works for a building owner, she is currently setting up a Revit template for their particular company, saying, hey, these are the parameters that or the parameter values we're going to need you to fill out for as a building owner, these types of things. Same scenario as this. But in this case, this is literally just for the sheets. We went in and added all those parameters. They could be project parameters, they could be shared parameters, whatever you guys feel they need to be, but they can be here. Inside, and that's all that I have inside of here. So literally, these are the ones, the parameters. Honest truth, these sketch ones pretty much don't ever get used anymore. Right? We see you do a whole lot more of issuing individual 8.5 by 11 sketches, and now most of their projects are full sheet pre-issuances. So this is kind of dead. But regardless, all of this stuff here is there. In this Revit file, I have one view set up. It is a drafting view with text on how to use the file, right? So this particular client says, hey, we've got these for organizing the sheet index. We've got all these other ones for how it's going to work when you do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the values we're using. And then down here it comes in and says, cool, open this file, go back to your project, transfer project standards, or simply copy and paste the schedule, right? So we have these on there as well for you to set it up. So this way, when a structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, whatever, whenever any subdiscipline comes in, we have this file on their ACC project. Everybody can open it, either copy and paste the schedule or transfer project standards if you don't want to see the schedule. I've set these up for building owners as well. And then we might have several different schedules for, oh, gee, here's all the plumbing equipment that might have these parameters. Here's all this that might have these parameters. And then, of course, here's a multi-category schedule with all of those parameters on there. So you have the capability to start going through and doing all of that stuff and seeing, cool, this is what I want to see. This is what we're looking at, etc. So hopefully that works for you guys, and that's going to be set up for you to understand this truly is what we're looking for. This is what we want to start coming into play and getting, and that's how you can set it up and use it. So, like I said, for me, it's kind of a big thing for like a lot of building owners. The one I'm currently working on for my client, the building owner has 485 parameters, right? And I've got to go through and say, okay, I'm in charge of the architect, but I'm the overall BIM lead for all the disciplines. So I've got to start pulling some of these parameters out and say this should be assigned to mechanical equipment. This should be assigned to lighting fixtures, etc. So I'm trying to go in that particular case, grab a parameter that they're telling us we have to use and associate it to what I deem as a non-MEP person categories. So therefore, again, everybody can open that up, delete what project parameters they don't think are going to pertain to them, like all the stuff for room information if you're mechanical, whatever, and then transfer those over. So not everybody's spending the 2 weeks of time like I'm doing setting all this stuff up. So I don't know. Do you guys have anything similar to that, Melissa, or get into those when you get into it and have it all set up going, oh my gosh, this is horrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still, yeah, all the sheet issuance stuff.
No.
All the stuff we used to throw in there. Yeah, it is very similar and definitely a file that you can send them. They can just copy stuff over.
Yeah, I laughed because I don't know, probably 8 years ago, 10 years ago, probably now. I know I had this file set up for a client in Desiree when she actually was doing more of the structural engineering BIM stuff. She was laughing. She's like, oh my God, I just had an architect send me a 25, 30-minute long video on how to add each one of the parameters manually by saying project parameter, type it in. She's like, it
Oh,
took him longer to,
sad.
yeah, she's like, it took him longer to create this video than the file, and I could have just transferred and been done. And so it's like, really, people? Oh my goodness, this is horrible. And if you guys can't tell, I literally am buying time for questions to come up. I actually did open up the questions, right? Yes. Attendees can submit questions. Making sure I didn't have that. Rick pointed it out, so I was expecting him to copy and paste hundreds of different questions up there. So with that said, since I don't see any questions currently, the other thing I did want to talk about too, I'm gonna go ahead and open up another file. I think I had it recent. Um, I actually kind of stole this file and tweaked it slightly from Paul Aubin, but I do also want to talk about because this is becoming more and more critical on a lot of the types of projects my clients are getting into. But it's about phasing. And I'm not going to really talk about phasing because I know a lot of people understand that we have phases, etc. But the one thing I always like to talk about is we are very limited in Revit with the graphic overrides for phases. Like prior to having view filters with phasing properties, just using the phase filters, we've never been able to show like future stuff, right? It was a long request. Gee, I want to show future stuff. I want to see what's going on there. So I think it was Revit 22.1, I think it was somewhere around there, where they actually gave us the capability to go into filters. And in those filters, start looking at elements and looking at the phase created or the phase demolished property for those elements. So for me, I went through and created a blank file. I call this my filter template file, where I literally just say, hey, this object was created in phase one. It was created in phase one, demolished, et cetera, starting to go through and look at those stuff. Because with this said, we get so much more flexibility in being able to change how we want to do it. And part of the reason I'm bringing this up is I've had two different clients work on a couple projects where we've got like over 40 phases in each one of those projects. And the reason for that is there's a lot of, hey, these people have to temporarily exit out this corridor. So we've got to phase just a corridor, right? So we can do our code studies, et cetera. So we've got to set this out and go do this one little corridor exit. And then, 2 weeks later, that corridor gets extended another 30 feet, whatever. So we have to have a crap ton of phases for doing that. Yes, we could do this with some sort of comment or something like that, but the phases are there. And since we have the capability to do rule-based filtering on that, it starts to really, really, really make that process a bit easier. The other thing on that as well is not only does it make that process a tad bit easier, it also gives us the capability to have that process set up for, again, same thing I said. So this client that's got 45 phases, they've set up a project with just the phases. They've set up that project to have all of the different view filters they're using, along with the view templates and what they're doing with those colors to, again, transfer project standards across that stuff as well to start going through and doing it. So definitely have that section to be able to go through and start looking at as well. So I can get into phasing and the phase filters a little bit more if you guys want to, but just waiting for questions here. I saw Rick had a question. I think he put half of that question in the chat. I got to find the chat.
Well, he's got the question about the extra monitors too.
Oh, I didn't see that
I think
one.
that's
See?
important. Uh, I have an external monitor for my laptop. It's not clip-on, but it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I rarely am somewhere where it matters. I mean, there's been a few times when, well, and my old laptop, I don't know if you guys ever saw my old laptop. My old laptop actually had a second monitor built into it. So my old laptop, the
Mm.
keyboard was shifted down, and I had a monitor above the keyboard, so I could put like the Q&A from all my webinars, and I could put all my webinar controls down there. It was really, really great. I had all that stuff on that second monitor, including like my Teams down there. And now that I've got this new monitor for the last few months, it's like, or this new computer, it's like, oh man, I miss my little second monitor. And it was also
Yeah,
nice. It was also nice because you didn't have to do anything to set it up. It was literally built into the laptop.
well, I had to plug something in, so that was quite the hardship.
All right,
But
so
yeah, I
did you?
keep seeing the ones where there's like two, so you pull one out on either side.
Yeah, the new Asus one, actually, the keyboard comes off, and underneath the keyboard is a whole second monitor. So it's like the whole computer just comes off of the monitor and turns sideways, and you get one giant monitor for the laptop. It's pretty insane. The Asus Duos have some pretty crazy stuff. The only problem for us is they're not that powerful.
Mm. Yeah, the only problem.
Cool. So what do we got for questions? I see some popping up now.
Oh, well, we've got Phil asking if you're going to be speaking at AU. That's important.
I actually did get accepted finally after like 8 years of rejections. I am teaching the Revit Editor Fundamentals Lab. So I don't know
All
who's all
right.
going and who wants to sit in on a fundamentals lab who comes to this, but yeah, I did get that accepted this year. I'm just excited it's a lab because then I don't have to do the whole pre-recording thing, which is always nice. So, yep, did get that one.
Very nice.
So did you? I'm looking for Rick's. I found Rick's thing on sheet collections in the chat. So I'm thinking about getting rid of one of my parameters for sheets in favor of using sheet collections. But then if I do that, when I need to use a sheet collection, am I going to be screwed? I paraphrase that. Um, I've been looking at this a little bit with some clients. Like if I go in a lot of clients' files and we start like looking at sheet collections too, right? If we can come down here to sheets now, we can say new sheet collection. It's going to start me bringing in like another layer of browser organization. So I come down here and say new sheet collection, right? I can have as many collections as I want. One advantage that sheet collection will allow you to do is I can have, sure, I don't need a title block. There's not one in here, but I can come in here and have this as sheet A101. And if I go create a new sheet over here, I can also then in this collection have this sheet as A101. So it has allowed us to remember sheet collections and have those sheets have the same, excuse me, the same sheet numbers, which we were not allowed to do before. Now, if I were to take this one and say, no, let's go ahead and move this to collection one, it's going to yell at me, telling me we can't have those same sheet numbers. Where I think this becomes beneficial is I get clients on, maybe they're doing like they have a whole entire building, they constantly do different TI work, and each little TI
Mm.
project wants a sheet A101 or whatever it's going to be. We can do that now. So we can have a different TI project, or even in particular case of my one client's doing these giant remodels on huge buildings. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're doing this in different phases for contractors, but each different contracting phase wants a sheet A101. So that's really where the sheet collections start coming in. If you want to start using those for some sort of like new browser organization, you absolutely can. I just don't know if I would, because when you need to be like, oh, we really have the sheet collection to start using for that, we really need to look into this. Not sure if that's something I'd be, wanting to limit myself since we already had that on. So like I haven't taken that into consideration in my template yet. Granted, my template's still in 24, but I haven't taken that into consideration and tried revamping that or for any of my clients either. Because I think when we're going to need it, it's going to be really nice. But if you wanted to, I think the place that would be nice to have it would be like presentations, right? Because I think if you're going to be doing like your own
Mhm.
presentation, it might be kind of nice to have presentations be their own little grouping here that we could just expand and collapse. But again, if you've got your own grouping numbers for those, feel free to use those grouping numbers. So I don't know. Don't know if I really have a yes or no on that one, Rick. I think it was Rick who said that. I'm trying to get back to.
It
So
was.
don't, yeah, okay. Don't know if that's something that really, hey, I want to get into or whatever. It's just, it's there and you have that capability.
I know, I feel like the only thing for sure is that if you were to get rid of sorting parameters, then you'd run into something where you needed it.
Yeah.
You had to put it back.
So my
Like,
one client, they were asking about it, and I went into their template and I did go in and create a grouping for them, right? This is their normal one, right? We need all of these for the sheet indexes anyway. We need the stupid grouping to group our sheet indexes the way we want. We need the disciplines to get the little words to the top of our sheet index. So I'm not going to break that too much. And I still want to have that underneath each set. But for one of those clients where they do like presentations and there are no general architectural, any of that stuff, it was like, cool, let's go ahead in their template. Let's do that new sheet collection. Da-da-da. Sheets, not schedules. I'm like, where is it? Let's do the sheet collection. Let's go ahead and rename it. And let's call it presentation. The one thing I found out about it that I don't like is sheet collections will appear before non-sheet collections. So that now means all the presentation sheets are going to always be at the top if they're in a sheet collection and something else isn't. So I wasn't too sure if I was keen about that, but I did introduce this to one of my clients, and I don't think they've started any new projects since then, but it is there. So hopefully that works.
oh yeah, and Sarah's saying they replaced the sh sheet category parameter with collections. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of a one-to-one swap over. Yeah, and I'm still playing in old Revits too, so I've only barely got to play with them.
Yeah, and Tony down in the Q&A came back and said, when was this added? Revit 24.1 or 25.1. I think it was in 25. I don't remember. It was in one of them. They added it. It was in a point release.
Yeah, it's
Um,
25.
yeah, I think it was 25. They added it in 25, and I think it's actually a really great thing um, to be able to do. And like I said, yeah, if you're a building owner or whatever, like I have several like TI clients where they've got an entire building
Mhm.
modeled, and then they XREF that they link that into a Blink project. They do their little work over
Yep.
here, and with what I said previously and the way phasing and filters can work now, you can have all these just different filters preset up and literally just start doing all your TI with the sheet collection and then start going through what you have.
Yeah, I think of all the workarounds and things we used to do for that,
Yeah.
just so you could have A101.
Yep. You know, the stupid Unicode or something else. Yeah, no, we have that now. So cool. What else we got going on?
Let's see, that's 10. And I have to apologize to Tom because I'm never gonna not read that as Tim Curry. I'm really sorry.
Yes, I always read Tom's as Tim Curry
Or
too.
congratulations. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you feel about that.
That's okay. Every time I read his name, I get a picture of Tim Curry and Clue.
Mhm.
So sorry,
Oh, that's
Tom.
a pretty good one. I feel like that's probably the least offensive version that you could get in your head right off the bat.
Hmm.
I really like Tim Curry though, so it's a good thing. Oh, then my mouse stopped playing. Let's see. Oh, just so if you need to do some searching, Tim said he sent
No,
an email regarding
I have it ready. I
actual
have it
Tim,
ready.
not Tom.
Yeah, I have it
Okay, so you
ready.
got that. Uh, well, would you like to do that now, or would you like to?
Sure.
All right.
So
So actual Tim
I was gonna say, wait,
has
I'm
a
just saying now
cover
I'm
art.
confused. Now I'm confused. Wait, was it Tom or Tim who asked this question? Now I'm just
Yep,
confused.
no,
Confused me,
actual
Melissa.
Tim,
I mean,
not pretend Tim.
I know I get confused easily, but you've really confused me now.
Perfect. That's my job.
So Tim's question was, I don't know if he actually said he downloaded this or created it. I forget what the email said, but basically he wants to try to get into like these radiant heater covers and start having something a little bit more simplistic to use where it will actually do these voids. So he did a couple examples of great. I did this one as a railing. I think they're both railings actually. How do I get those little voids inside of there? Unfortunately, if you're going to do something like this and try to do this in railing and make it work in these scenarios, never going to happen. Um, because it's not going to come back and put these voids in here. You could attempt to model that slightly differently, but I don't know how well it's going to work around the curve. And the fact that if you came in and actually modeled this as a support, not a profile for a railing, and you literally had like the I shape that would be the void. So like not put a void in there, but have a solid with a line right here and a line right here. You would get those lines, or do a C shape where you're getting the line here and it comes across, whichever. You might be able to get that to work only because it would be somewhere like I'm doing on the rebar, or not the rebar, the Constantine wire barbed wire fence. So if I open this up, and this would be something you could go in and try. Where's my railings? Go into my sample railings. Oh, did I go the wrong folder, or I just forget to upgrade this? So what I've done on this one that is the barbed wire fence, not the regular barbed wire, but more of the Constantine coil barbed wire, is I created a railing support. That railing support is half of a spiral. Actually, it's a full spiral, but it's like that. So then in the definition of the railing, what I've went through and done is said, cool, let's use a support. Then let's go ahead and replace that support every like 6 inches. So this doesn't obviously have to be a spiral. You could do this as part of the heater. But when you did that, you are going to see that I do have a seam here and here. So in your plan, you are going to see those seam lines. But the nice part is, like it said, this is a railing. So if I go say create similar, and I just try to do a curved path, granted, this is a little bit better because it's just an arc, but along that curved path, it's going to try to swap those and get those to work. They might not line up perfectly. You might get some weirdness, but you could do that. So how that's done is if I tab select and get that railing itself, I want to actually get the top rail. So if I edit the railing here and I go look at this, there is sorry, it's a handrail, not a top rail. I did use a handrail. And in that handrail, what I've done is I went in and said, cool, let's go ahead and create the supports. Let's use this family and let's set up with a fixed distance of whatever that value needs to be. Right? I don't know what that's going to do around the corners, but it might be nice enough for you to go through and get what you need. But you could go through and set this up. The only thing about this too is the railing does also have to have a profile on it. So in my thought on yours, if you were doing that, go back to, I think, this one, you could use the profile to literally be the vertical piece that's just a rectangle coming up. And then the supports could sit on top of that, similar to what I did for my barbed wire, and have that start coming through and getting set up. So report for what is it going to do in the corners here? What is it going to do around the curve? Probably not great because those are going to be fixed pieces that are rectangular and technically they should be a wedge shape. I think it would depend on if you drew the sketch from the inside versus the outside. Would they overlap versus leave a gap? That's what I think you're going to have to start to figure out is, do I do the draw the line from the inside versus the outside radius? Not sure. And if you got one that had both, you'd just be screwed. One would look somewhat decent, the other one would look like crap. But that's about the only way I can think to do it in a railing type scenario. You could attempt to do it as line-based family, but then again, once you got to a curve, it's not going to understand what it's doing in a curve either. So, wish I had a better answer for you, Tim. It was Tim, right? Yeah, it's Tim.
Yeah, yes, actual Tim.
I can't see my Q&A popped up because it's floating off to the side. We can't even see Q&A down here. Stupid thing. Where's the Q&A?
Yeah, it's not very friendly if you've only got one screen. If only you had a second little
Clip-on
monitor.
monitor. Yeah, I keep debating getting one recently, so.
It doesn't even have to be clip-on. I have a lovely little stand that goes, and then I can put it wherever the heck I want.
Yeah, I know. But then when I go travel, it's like, oh, you got to take all your electronic devices out. It's just one more device to take out. All righty. So what's our next question?
Let's see. Okay, that one's done. Okay. All right. So at Tom, actual Tom, says, can you use a shared label parameter in a family, then set up a tag that reads that label parameter? I'm a structural engineer thinking of base plates in a column family, so BP1, BP2, etc. So you select the base plate family, then the tag would show which base plate is selected.
Da-da-da. Yes, you absolutely can. And if you open up the sample structural project, and the only reason I know this is because I created that sample structural project. Blah, 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 sample structure,
Humble
open.
brag.
No, it's just I know this is in there
I'm
because
just kidding.
it's not like I have never really looked since I left an Autodesk reseller at the sample projects until I had to create it.
That's fair.
I mean, how often do you open up the sample project, Melissa? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, when I'm teaching classes at community college, we would poke around in the old ones, but
Hmm. Da-da-da. So let's get this sucker open.
Dun, dun, dun.
Continue to open. Let me go to the 3D structure only view. So when I start, oh, I hate the fact that Autodesk broke this on me. Manage links. Wait, I'm in 25. Okay, sorry. 26, move the manage links over to here. And so I keep going here to click manage links and I keep opening up the materials dialog box, which is not something you want to actually be opening. Site, unload.
Especially on your laptop with
Well, it's just that that's
screens.
the worst file to open. So when we do start looking at a lot of these structural, so this would be an example for you to look at here in the middle, these are going to be a pile and cap, right? So these are just piles underneath the strip footings, and then underneath our isolated foundations, we do have a pile and a cap. So the way this family is set up is this is a nested pile into the cap family. So if I edit this family, you will see that below, this isn't just an extrusion, this is another nested family. This family has been set up for you to choose what type it is. So this is a file type family, or a pile type family, excuse me, which is a structural foundation. So it's a family type parameter as a structural foundation. The biggest thing on that, if you want to be able to tag those base plates as you brought out, is this family that is the pile needs to have this checkbox here for shared ticked. When the ticked is shared on a family, as you nest that into other families, you can tag and or schedule that. So if I'm able to tag and or schedule that family, then I can start going into the project environment and saying, okay, that's cool. Now when I go down to the top of footing view, you'll see that I have a couple tags here. I've done them as different tags. So I've tagged the cap family as the cap family, and then I came down here and tagged the pile family as the pile family, right? I could make it to where I was tagging with the cap family the type of pile it was, but I didn't want to do that because then I'm limited to what that family name is. This one here can actually pick up whatever I wanted to do. So this tag in the structural sample project, it's looking at the type mark. So if I tab select to get to that pile, I'm not looking at the name. I can call the name something. I'm actually going to be looking in this case at the type mark, right? So this is a DP 24 by 12. I actually could set it up to be looking at the diameter or the width if I wanted to. I could set those tags up to be anything. So for me, I like the flexibility of having multiple tags be able to be selected, but I could have in the pile fam or in the cap family chosen to select the system or the family type of the structural foundation. So you could do that as well. But I like that too, because again, if I came back here and said, oh, cool, let me go edit the type of, oops, that's not the cap. Grab the cap family. God dang it. Grab the cap family. Come back here, say edit type, and let's just say somebody came in here and did this. They wanted a 30 by 30. Again, since I'm tagging that, that's what it's going to be looking at and the values of that. So yeah, you can look at that sample project if you want, kind of reverse engineer that one and see if that one ends up working for you. Why did questions end up under the more? So hopefully that answers your question, Tim or Tom. Sorry. Dang it.
My bad. Jason asked what font is being used in that tag.
Whatever Aubin, who did the architecture project, chose, I don't freaking remember. They
Come
wanted it
on,
all.
edit
They
the
wanted it
tag and
all to
go look.
match. So just like any other
Mhm.
sub person, it was. I was at the mercy of the architect on this project, Trebuchet. So I was at the mercy of the architect who didn't want to use Arial. So we're using Trebuchet on the sample projects.
Nice.
Yeah, Tim already knew. Tim's like, yeah, it's Trebuchet. Yeah, I don't know fonts.
I think I can only pick out papyrus.
That's what Michael just said, papyrus. Comic Sans and
Mm.
papyrus, I know. I was actually laughing because
Yeah, those are the two that I'm like, ugh.
way back when I worked for an Autodesk reseller and we lived in Colorado, we did a whole Revit for residential because at that point in time, Autodesk was marketing, oh, look, we're doing the Freedom Tower in Revit. So everybody thought it was for these giant projects. So we did the whole thing on Revit for residential. And then everybody's like, well, can I use it for commercial? So we came up with this thing and I downloaded a graffiti font and I literally like did the out of the box Revit dumpster and I put graffiti all over it. I should model text with this graffiti font. And I was like, look, now we're going to do this for this city environments and urban environments. And I just had graffiti on every building I did. It was kind of fun.
Oh, Stylus BT. That was one of my favorites.
So what do we got next?
Sorry, I'm just reading Jason's comment about thinking you had a big earring on. And I looked up and it is in fact distracting. Your earpiece is dangling.
Oh, sorry.
It does
I
it
will
does
put it.
look like you
Well, if I put the earpiece in, then I start talking really loud because I can't hear myself as well. Then everybody around me on the houseboat gets to be like, "What is going on?" There, I'll tuck it
Mm.
up more, Jason, so it's not.
I think it's cute that you think you don't talk loud without it.
Well, I talk loud normally, but when I put the other
Oh
earpiece in,
no.
yes, it's even louder. Yes, I do have a sexy earring on the right hand side. It's called a microphone. Hmm. All right, what else we got
Okay.
here?
Rick was asking why didn't you do architecture and Desiree do structure?
Paul Aubin did architecture and Desiree did the engineering. See, I'm not an engineer, so she actually engineered the building. But she has a real job, so then I did all the modeling of the Revit behind the scenes while she was doing the engineering. So she did all the calculations and the fun stuff. I did all or the real stuff. I did all the fun Revit stuff.
There you go. So like normal, she was your boss. Yeah.
Yes, like every day.
Hmm. Let's see. Oh, Rick was also asked if your AU presentation will be available to watch online. Do you know, have they said anything about that yet?
I don't know if they said anything about that. There's not even a schedule out yet. They just like, yes, you've been accepted. Please register, and then we'll submit. I think they're supposed to give the schedule at the end of June, and then they use early
Okay.
this year because it's in September. So
Ah, yes, September.
at least it's not over Halloween this year. I'll still be able to get all my Halloween decorations set up. That's the important part.
Let's see. Okay, so Brian was, this is kind of could be a big open question, but Brian's asking, what are your best tips or tricks for figuring out what's leading to a bloated model?
Um, the simplistic thing that I do first is I start looking at warnings. And I know this sounds crazy, but I hear people always tell me, "Oh, well, some warnings just don't matter." And the example I always use is I had a client who had a project like literally they hired me as their consultant. First day out, they were introducing me to staff, and one person's like, "Hi, great, I can't open up the file, figure out what's wrong." And I got into that file, and there was something like 80,000 warnings. Now, this was like 20 years ago, and part of the problem is the person they had as their BIM manager beforehand was using just out of the box mark or type mark as values that they would use for
Oh,
similar things. So probably 70,000 of those 80,000 warnings or 70,000 plus were elements that have duplicate values. Right. So
oopsie doopsie.
this person literally cannot open up the model simply because elements have duplicate values. Right. I changed it out, added a shared parameter for what they needed to do, swapped them all out via schedule, and got done. And not only was she able to open the model, everybody's like, oh my God, when we were synchronizing this, it was taking us 30 minutes. It's now taking 5.
I bet.
So the biggest, fastest thing for me that I always tell people is warnings are one of the biggest things to start looking at. Um, I put that all the time. I say that I've had other clients not believe me. Finally got to the point where one of my clients, their project had, I don't, wasn't an excessive amount of warnings, but had enough warnings that when they had the team go in and pull it down, they were like, our synchronizations again went from something like 20 minutes to a couple minutes. And they're like, so we synchronize each person about 8 times a day. They're saving 20 minutes per synchronization. that's, an hour and a half, 2 hours per person. I literally could hire somebody to do nothing but take care of warnings, and I would still come out ahead. It's literally how they
Mm.
started looking at it. So they enforce it pretty much. They even do a thing called Warning Wednesdays, that every Wednesday morning, every project needs to open up and maintain warnings. This client will usually deliver their files with less than 100 warnings. And I'm not saying they actually did get one project down to zero. It was a little crazy, but it's just like the warnings are the biggest thing for me to start looking at. After warnings, I then go start looking at like families and family size is the kind of thing that I start looking for. And I know you guys use them a lot, but I also look at groups and see if those groups are properly maintained. Right. If you
Mhm.
got groups where there's 100 groups and elements are excluded from those groups because of whatever warning, and there's 100 groups, but each one has a different element, you know, excluded, those start to be things as well. The other little things that's hard to test for is how many times is somebody in your office going right click, hide in view this element, right? So since Revit is a database in essence, when you start doing certain things, those elements get added to the database, and Revit's got to parse through that data every time you try to do something. So, like when you open up a view, Revit's got to go into its data and say, "Hey, in this view, has an element been hidden?" If there's 100 elements in that list, pretty quick to find out. If there's a million elements in that list, it's going to take a time for every time you open up a view for it to start parsing that data. Right. So things like hide and view and elements, I've seen that massively affect
Yeah.
speed in projects as well. Use a filter. It's much easier. Filters are a global thing. It's not an individual element type basis. And that's kind of one of the big things for me. Um, I have some idea has a great tool for style manager on this. That's one where I will go in. They have the warnings tab, not style manager, but they do have that. Sorry, I wanted to go to Explore. They have a warnings tab in Ideate Explorer, which is one of the greatest things ever because you can just come over your warnings. It'll tell you all your warnings. It'll allow you to go through, select them, figure out what the warning is, fix the warning while the dialog box is still open. So that's how I deal with warnings. The other thing I like is their Explore tool will
Nice.
then start showing you every single thing modeled in the entire project. So then I can come down here and quickly see, oh, look, I have 6,482 groups in here. That might be a bit much. Right. So starting to go through and just really looking through, and that's what I do. And then I start looking at images. Oftentimes I see people bring images into Revit, and then I look at the scaling of those images, and those images have been scaled 0.002. It's like if you had a 1 gig image and you brought that in and you've now placed that in 32 locations and it was scaled 0.002, you probably need to edit that image and manually do it ahead of time. So things like that, that's what I always look at first. And then I also do use the ID tool for Style Manager because Style Manager is great. It will start showing you all the crazy object styles you have in the project. So now you can start seeing all these crazy object styles that those families brought in for you, or the hatch patterns where they're all done in Chinese characters and you have no idea what they even are. All of those types of things. This will also show you every parameter that's been brought into the project, regardless of if it's a structural or a shared parameter or project parameter. If the family's been removed, those parameters still stay there. So I start bringing a lot of stuff like that. And the other one, thank you for this, Rick. I was just going to go back to that. The other reason I like to explore is we got, and I put this in on Blue Sky the other day. We got a particular thing from a building owner, and the building owner said, "Oh, we've got these total record as-built modeled Revit files you could use." And one of the filters you get up
Mhm.
here is they have some
Nice.
filters pre-built. You can build your own, but this is model in place. So how many things have
Mm.
been modeled in place in this project? There was something like 14,500 modeled in place elements, right?
Yeah, that'll definitely do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was another issue of, oh my God. I mean, they did scan to BIM, and whoever did it was literally just taking meshes and putting them into Revit as direct shapes and saying, cool, here we go. This is a new Revit
Yeah.
file. Okay, Rick's like, ouch, 14,000. Yeah.
Yep, definitely seen that. It looks
That,
okay.
that also had something like 16,000 warnings in it too, a particular file. So I literally came into this page and went, why is this so slow? Oh, 14,000 modeled in place
When it
warnings.
takes
Oh,
20 minutes just to open warnings, there's
yeah.
part of your sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, oh, 16,000 warnings. Yeah, this is not a usable font. My client's like, well, how can we manipulate? It's like, no, you start over. I was like, you go in, they actually drew walls as walls. Like, you go in, you delete everything out of that project but walls. You bring the walls and link it in. You then trace the building with real stuff that you have. And
Hmm.
then you start going back and, hey, now I'm going to take the file that still has everything in it and start parsing. Like, every stair, every handrail is an in place family. Half of the ceilings, there's like 300 in place families for
Wow.
ceilings. Yeah. Half the floors were in place floors. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that, I, yes. Yes,
So
I've had that model.
yeah, so it's kind of like
Another
my
one I would
clients
add is, oh,
go, no, go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say downloaded families as well,
Yeah,
especially if it's like a furniture family that's going to be used a lot. I've had a chair that had the logo
yes.
on it underneath that you couldn't even see, but for some reason
Yeah, there's
it killed our file because there were a couple hundred of them.
there was one of the airport furniture like hold room chairs that you sit in had that literally built like inside of it they put the name the logo in like 3D text, and then that
Yep.
piece was like arrayed into it like it was in the leg or something like that. So every time there was a leg inside the extrusion, so we went to wireframe, you could see it but nowhere else. It's like they wanted everybody to know it was their chair if somebody downloaded it. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah, well, that's
Like
fair. I
we're
only found
embedding
out
model.
ours because I was walking around in Enscape and I accidentally like scrolled weird and ended up like under a chair. It's like, what the?
Like, what the heck? The bottom side of the chair says
Uh,
do not place glue here or gum here. Cool.
yeah.
I need that in my Revit file. Yeah, so that's all I can say is it's just certain things like that that you start looking at and getting into. It's like, okay. But yeah, that's just kind of what I do, Brian. It's a process to start with. And by saying that, what I should say first is when I first thing I do personally, because I don't work on these files day to day, I always have all the link files unloaded for me. So I open it up, close the work sets. I unload all those links. I then will reopen up work sets to see if things are on the right work sets. But yeah, I
Mhm.
always do this with no link loaded because I want to make sure it's what's going on. Now I know Brian is in the MEP side of things. So yeah, if you get an architect with a really, really crappy model, that's when you just have to tell them one of two things. Either you're going to pay us more because your file's so bad we can't utilize it, or we are not going to have it in as an underlay, and you're going to manually have to tell some PDFs how to do it because that will be faster process for us. And if they're like, what's going on? What are you talking about? You talk to the project architect in charge and say, look, here's what this is doing to us. You show them the time you're losing and be like, this is not acceptable. So I don't know. That's what I got. Anything else, Melissa? Dad, besides the, modeled text underneath families?
I know. Ah, no, I don't know, just don't suck at Revit. I don't know.
Just don't suck at Revit.
Can't you just not suck? Um, yeah, no, I think it seems like there should be something new and exciting we can say, but I think it is just the good old fashioned keeping mornings and families and just keep it clean, guys. Keep it clean.
Yeah. I also laugh because I don't think a lot of people realize, and I honestly didn't notice this at all, and I just never thought of it because I don't do it. But I was working with Autodesk on a client, and they were creating this nice script that would pick up the rooms and automatically put the room data into it for one of my clients. They hired us to do this, and the problem is they got into it, and none of the mechanical stuff would work because every mechanical piece of equipment was an in-place family, and in-place families pick up on their 000 as the Revit 000. So all of them kept reporting the
Uh,
same damn room on the project. We're like, oh yeah, we're all in the hotel lobby or whatever it was because every single mechanical unit was an in-place family, and they all had the same 000, and that 000 happened to have like the hotel lobby or whatever it was. You can just say it, Rick.
I would,
I don't understand why the design industry is so afraid of saying, hey, your guys' stuff sucks. We need more money, or we're not, to be able to do with it. I don't know. I have structural engineer clients of mine and be like, cool, we're going to model our grids at real number. Your numbers are all off because if we put that into our analytical program, it will blow us up. And the architects don't have a clue. Make some shit up like that. Hey, if we put that into our analytical program, it's not going to work because your file sucks so bad. So we're going to have to manually go through this process. So we can't use your file because of that. Architects are clueless about what you guys do and what other pieces of the software you do. If you say you can't do the analysis because their file sucks so bad, then they'll start to get the point. Yeah, put them in their place. Bud even said put them in their place, and I'm an architect. Cool. So what other questions do we got?
I think Joseph's is kind of next. Do you think Revit will eventually support a link template applicator? Meaning if I have four link templates, structural, mechanical, I'm assuming interiors and HVAC. Then instead of doing a reload from to have all the view templates apply like normal, if we had two mechanical models or someone does an oops and removes a model, it's easy to just bring back.
I doubt we are ever going to see that. I understand what you're saying. That was Rick, right? Who said that?
Joseph.
Joseph said that. I doubt we're ever going to start to see that. And yeah, so kind of like what you said, I think a lot of us have placeholder families inside of here. Which one am I in?
Okay.
Probably mine. So when we start getting inside of here, yeah, and some of my clients, we went excessive. Like they've got placeholder architectural interiors, placeholder architectural
Mhm.
shell. Like they literally have like 4 or 5 things in there, literally so they can have all of those view templates set up. The other reason why I have all those in there is I have a lot of model coordination views or just coordination views that I want to turn certain things on and off. So yes, I have all these inside of here, and you are right. When I need to change it, I go into my manage links, I go do a reload from, and I do a reload from. So all of the templates, all of those things, etc., start coming through and being set up. So I would just literally say put an excessive amount in there because no, I don't think we're ever going to see that. Because like you said, oh gee, like I have one where I had fire protection. Like, oh no, well we have fire alarm and fire protection. Cool. Those are separate consultants. Now I have fire alarm and fire
Mhm.
protection, right? So I might start getting to mechanical, whatever. And I know I'm currently creating a template for one project. It's like, well, we also need to link all the buildings around it. So cool. I have structural and structural others. Other one, other two, other
Mhm.
three, because we're gonna need to link the 5 buildings around. I am doing that in a template before we start the project. But yeah, so yeah, 6 is like nothing. I literally have for placeholders, I have one client who has like 15. They're like, if I don't need them, I'll come in and I'll delete the other ones out, but they're there, they're set up, the views are set up, etc.
Yeah, we have.
It's just it's just that making sure your team knows to go do a reload from as opposed to wink Revit, done, cool. Yeah, you broke everything.
Yeah, and apparently, if you're working with other architects, make sure they know too, because I had a guy on the other team that was like, "Well, I wasn't sure what they were for, so I removed them all."
Mine are all set up origin to origin, Rick, not shared coordinates, because shared coordinates doesn't
Mhm.
exist until I get a site file on a project, right? So for me, everything's origin to origin. That's why I always tell everybody is make sure, I don't care what discipline you're in, you link it origin to origin and you move your levels, you move whatever grids you have in your template to match whoever started it. If they were numbskulls and started it way off in space, you still always want to be set up to origin to origin. Yeah, I think that is a big thing too, Jason, is if you have more in there and people don't remove them. But I don't care. You'll see that mine all say placeholder. If I get into a project 6 months down the road and my clients only have 2 things linked, architecture and one mechanical, because they did all MEP in it, and there's 18 other links in there, doesn't slow it down. They're all unloaded. It doesn't really matter. Rick, what do you mean? How can you change it later? The origin to origin? Making it be shared coordinates. Um, well, everything should be linked in origin to origin, like I said. And then after the fact, once the architect sets up, or let me change that, once the prime sets up the shared coordinates, then any other discipline literally just needs to go up and say manage coordinates, acquire coordinates, and you acquire coordinates from whoever was prime. If structure is prime, if architecture is prime, the contractor is prime, whatever, you just acquire coordinates from that prime model, and therefore now your shared coordinates are set up. Usually I'm working with who's ever prime, 90% of the time the architect, and I set up shared coordinates on all of their stuff. I do it in a completely separate blank file. That's a discussion for another day. And then I get the coordinates in the main prime model, the architect's model, then everything gets acquired from that. So every other discipline is like, cool, go up and acquire. And then when it changes in
Mhm.
6 months, because I've never been on a project where it hasn't changed, I just go reset the coordinates in the architectural file, reacquire from my little blank file I do it in, and then I tell the disciplines, cool, you guys got to go reset and reacquire. Yeah, and that is something else you can do. You guys are like all on the ball for me today, like just saying, cool, you can also do
Mm.
this. Um, if you have a linked file you can right click on and you can say reposition to project base point or reposition to internal origin. You can also do that for your survey point and your project base point as well. somebody's unclipped it and moved it or did something weird, and you're like, what is going on? Can't do that. You can right click. So if I take see if I can get just the project base point.
Mhm.
Oh, I got two there. Grab all of these and hide them so I don't have to tab through all of those. So if your project base point has been moved, you can right click on that project base point and just say go move back to internal origin. So you have those right clicks on a lot of things as well. So cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that'll work for you guys. But yeah, just add more, add more linked placeholders. So what's our next question?
Let's see, just checking this. Caitlin's asking, do you have any form of a tracking file, Excel or something, within ACC projects to track any unique changes? Last week I had 3 different instances of major changes to the permissions, etc., and had to email my boss. I was looking to just put an Excel file in our template to track those. Do you use anything like that?
Oh, I don't know if anything like that exists, Caitlin. I'm sure you could probably have something like that happen, but out of just ACC, I don't think you can do a report on like what's changed folder structure, permission structure, etc. I mean, I could be wrong in that. I would know that the Forge application has that, and I know if you got into CAD monkeys or what is Adam's company called? Melissa, do you know?
BIM
Adam
beats?
BimBeats, thank you. BimBeats probably could do something like that for you guys. But yeah, I honestly don't know if there is anything to know what's changed on permissions. Um, yeah, I had a client recently ask me, he's like, hey, can I go into ACC and start removing some of those roles? And I'm like, no, because if those roles, that's a global setting for your ACC hub. And if those roles were controlling permissions on a project and you remove them, you're removing those permissions out of each project. It's not just one project, it's the entire hub. So no, I don't know if there is anything that exists. I'm sure somebody out there could create something for you. Um, yeah, you can look into the history of activity, Tim, but I don't know if you can look into like what permissions have changed, who added folders, etc. And maybe I'm wrong, Tim. Maybe there is a spot for that. I'm usually the only admin on projects, so I don't have to. I know
You
what's
don't have to figure
changed.
out what you did. Yeah, that's fair.
I like the way BIM 360 actually used to be able to look at the activity in folders. Now in A3 or in ACC, you can only look at activity of individual files, which pisses me off.
Yeah, I haven't had to. Yep, the history is only limited stuff.
Yeah,
Well, back in the early days when you couldn't look at a folder and see who had permissions. I absolutely had a giant spreadsheet where it was like everybody that was in the project and what they had access to.
yeah.
It was stupid and ridiculous and very time consuming.
Well, and I know on some of the stuff on ACC, that I was like, man, I want to know everybody with this company and how many people with this company. And it was really screwing up. Like the search wasn't working for me on individual companies. But then I started to realize that if you actually go into your account admin, and I got to go to one of my clients, not me. But if you go into the account admin and then you start typing in under members here, this gives you a lot more stuff. But again, you have to be an account admin. So if you're like, oh, cool, I want to know everybody who's part of BD Mackey, right? It'll start popping up all of those names, and then it will even if I scroll, why can't I scroll? It'll even then show. Oh, you got to click on the user. It'll then show you I'm part of 48 projects for this client, and then you click on the projects,
Mhm.
and it'll show you what projects they're in. So you do have that capability as well, because I've been trying to figure that out as well. And I'm like, oh, cool, I want to go do this. And what I was trying to accomplish wasn't coming up. And it's like, I need to know who's all associated to this. And it doesn't just look at like the company, it'll look at the possibly the email as well as the company, as well as everything else. So it was kind of nice to be able to do it that way. And then I could export this out. I could select them all, export it, and then I could give a list of people. Here's all the people for your company. Because some client was asking me, we've had a lot of turnover in last year. Can you tell us everybody you've assigned a BIM 360 project? And they're asking me for one project. And I'm like, God, this is a pain. So I did it on all of them. And then they came in and said, oh, cool, here you go. And you can remove them. And if you remove them, you're literally removing them from every single project that they've ever been assigned to. for that particular hub or for that particular client, I should say.
I would like to be able to remove myself from hubs because I'm stuck on a few hubs for companies that don't exist anymore, but
Yeah.
it makes my company list kind of.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I want to be able to go remove that myself.
Yeah, can I just please leave that project so it's not in my giant list?
Well, and yeah, I used to laugh because I
Mhm.
had a problem where I would actually, my default hub when I went to accdots.com would pop up as a client that I haven't even worked with in 4 years. It's like, oh, I'm going to default you to this client. I have their
Yeah.
project's 4 years old. I haven't touched that project. I haven't even talked to that client in 2.5 years. Why?
Like I said,
Um,
I get defaulted to your hub, so
yes, exactly. You can default into mine still, so I can go remove you if you want, Melissa, so that doesn't happen. And then the other thing that I don't
uh,
think people understand is if a person leaves the company and they take their ACC account with them. So and I always tell this to all my clients is like if you're going to quit or you're going to get laid off, go change your Autodesk account from your company email to your personal email. If you've been going to AU or things like that, if you don't have two Autodesk accounts, because anything you've done, you posted on the knowledge forums, you posted it, went to AU, you've downloaded content, or like me, who's speaking at AU, all that's part of your profile. So if you leave a company and that they just get rid of your ACC account, you lost everything. So it's like go change it to be a personal email, change your email to be Gmail or something, and then when you start the new company, switch your new email to be the new company's email. And then when that happens, the bizarre part is all those old projects you had rights to, you still have rights to as a new as at the new company because you're assigning it to the email account, to the Autodesk account, not the email address. So Desiree has done that every time she still has rights to all the projects she was on, a company or two ago because she's done that every single time.
and they didn't remove her.
Who knows? I'm in charge of half the. I
Oh.
laugh because the structural engineering firm she used to work for, I don't know how many people's left your firm or whatever. I don't remove people. When the project's done, I archive the project, and that's the only way you lose rights. But I have no idea. I mean, there's one project we have 380 people assigned to it. I have no idea how many people are still at each one of those companies. I'm not going to spend my time going
Yeah.
through that. But again, they only have permissions to their specific folder. So if they go and jack up the structural engineers thing, I don't care because that's not my client.
That's the
So,
spirit.
all right, attempt to answer Sarah's question since we're at the top of the hour.
Oh, yes. Sarah is asking, how would you model bleachers with seats and aisle steps? Well, Dynamo, obviously. Is that what it's for?
An overly complicated family. I have one client who literally does the retractable bleachers and stairs, and I literally went in and had to go create a family for them to do that. So yes, that's how I would model an overly complicated family with I put way too many things inside of there.
Not
Um, if,
railings?
Not railings. I was gonna say if you're literally just talking, I'm trying to do seats or whatever, and you're trying to get it done down and dirty, one of the easiest ways is to make whatever seat family you wanted. You said bleacher, so I'm not sure on this. But I would make a seat family. That seat family I would load into an adaptive component, place it on the node, then load that adaptive component into an adaptive component that's line based that has the line divided with things on those nodes. And I think we talked about this in one of the somewhat recent family Revit radios on how to do that. Just because that way you can do curves. The adaptive component family could be on a curve if you wanted to. It could be straight, and it's fairly quick and easy to do. Um, that's how I would do it. But if you're talking like I want the aisles in there, etc., no, I would do those as separate things. Or like I said, seriously, it's one overly complicated family to do all that in. So hopefully, Sarah, that answers your question. It's not like that's an easy one of like, oh yeah, just go do this.
No.
I mean, you technically probably do it as a railing and make the chair a
That's what I was
support
waiting for.
family. Yeah, well, you said it, so my brain was thinking as I was talking. Yeah,
Mm.
you could probably technically do it as a railing family and make that a support, and then make that support just be repeated. But I would do that in an adaptive component family.
And I would just get there and copy them all and nudge them all into place.
So as stairs, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you could even do it as a stair. I'm sorry, railing. So I'm rethinking this. And especially with like, like a curved scenario, you could do that whole thing as a stair, and then you could host a railing on it and do that as not, you could do that actually as a support, not a support, a post, and then trace it up these, yeah. See, now I'm just sitting there thinking. So where my brain was going with this is if you had, which one's the stair file? Zoom to fit, that's probably blank. Which one was my stair? Not that one. This one? Now, where's my stair file? Did I close it? Yeah, this one. If you had it as a stair, so where I was getting with this is like this is set up to be one baluster per tread. So in your supports option for your here, you have a tick box to say balusters on tread, one baluster per tread. Because then you could like literally trace this up the stair, and if the stair was curving, just do it and like curve it up, and then each stair would go across. I don't know, that would be possible. In this case, it's benches for the seating, but that might need individual seats. Yeah. If I could remember the client name for the client, I did the crazy stair family. It was all one of those things that were retracted. When retracted, the stairs had to fold down and it had to close. It was pretty crazy. So I had a way overly complicated family where if you said it was closed, the stair had to be shown in the folded position, not in the upright position. But yeah, if you're just doing benches, then I probably should be doing some sort of weird stair family and call it a day. Cool. And I believe that was the last question. Yay.
Boom.
So a few minutes over the hour, but hopefully that answered everybody's questions. And hopefully everybody liked what they heard. If you didn't, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell your nemesis. Have them start wasting their billable hours if they need to. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing everybody next month, where I won't be in 100-degree weather, sweating. We'll see you guys next month, and come with your questions. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.